Hey everybody, Mr. Regan here, and today we're going to be looking at how we're going to be using active reading skills as we get into our very first article for our very first unit. The article that we're going to be reading today is called Energy Inventions, and we're going to be finding this article in our Amplify library. Anytime we read an article from our Amplify library this year, we're going to be using what are called our active reading skills. And today we're going to look at what those active reading skills are. We're going to be applying them to our article that we read, all so that we can, number one, get the most out of what the article is presenting to us, and number two, so we can begin thinking about how we can apply this new information to help our rescue team and the problem that we're trying to solve. So, first, let's talk about what active reading is. Active reading is when we focus on what we're reading and we pay attention to our understanding. To do this, we have some strategies and things that we do. And the big idea here is that we focus on actively reading and partaking in different strategies that are going to help us think about what's happening in the article. We're no longer taking on this passive role of just reading to read. We're reading and actively participating in different strategies. Strategies like annotating. Annotating is when we take notes to show your thinking with the text you're reading and the images and diagrams you see. So going into the article, whether it's a digital or a physical article, and making notes. When we make those notes, we would use strategies such as asking questions about what we're reading, whether they're questions about what things mean or questions that we have about more context needed to understand the article. We make connections between what we're reading in our lives, what we've read and what we've seen in the diagrams, and anything we can as we continue to read. And we identify difficult words or ideas that we can look to have to explore, discuss, or answered by teachers. The last thing we do as we partake in active reading is we discuss. We discuss your reading with a group or a partner to understand different perspectives on the reading. And all of these things, when we look at them together, help us to partake in an active reading that allows us to pay attention to our understanding. So let's take a look at what that might be like as we read our first article. So right off the bat, we have our energy inventions article. It looks like we have our introductory paragraph here, and it says, many people around the world don't have easy access to the energy they need to power lights, phones, and other electrical devices. There may not be an electrical grid nearby, or they may not have electrical wires to bring power from the electrical grid to their homes, or they may have electrical wires, but the nearby power plant may only provide energy part of the time, leaving people in the dark when it doesn't work. These people may not have much money, so they can't just buy lots of batteries or power their lights. They face an energy problem. They need access to cheap, reliable electricity. In all over the world, people from professional engineers and energy scientists to students, makers, and inventors are working to solve this problem. So, we've just read this article. And in order to engage in our active reading skills, we have to look at asking questions, making connections, and identifying difficult words. So let's take a look at what that might be. We can record questions about what we read by highlighting different sections and putting things in here. So this part was all about how the electrical grid might not be very reliable and how the power isn't always where they need. So a question as we're reading this we could ask would be, why would a power plant only run part of the time? If I lived in a community where a power plant only runs part of the time, clearly that's a problem. Clearly that's something that will affect my day-to-day life. That would be a great question that's going to help me connect with the text. Other things we might look at is highlighting difficult, confusing, or things that we want to ask questions about later. Things like the word reliable and this idea of electricity. So we might highlight that and ask ourselves, well, reliable electricity, what does that mean? What does it mean to have reliable in the sense of electricity? I know what reliable means when it comes to a phone or my clothes, things I can count on. But what do they mean when they say reliable electricity? We can highlight that and we can make connections with that sort of text. We can also look to make connections between what we're reading and what we see in the text. So we obviously have a paragraph here that deals with energy, and we have a picture here with some sort of invention. We can ask the question, does this work at night? As it connects with the reading and the text that we have here, the captions under the image and the image itself. The last thing we can look to do is just to discuss our annotations. As we're reading, we need to think about what we want to share with our partner in our group. These can be interesting questions or connections that we want to share with a partner, things that we look at and are like, oh, that's interesting, or that could be helpful as we're looking to solve the problem with our rescue team. We can look to identify things we want to discuss with the partner and talk about those annotations. And we can also look to prepare and ask questions beyond just the discussions themselves, whether it's with another classmate, the class, or the teacher. So, active reading means annotating your thinking with the text that you're reading and the images you see, asking questions, making connections, identifying difficult words, and then discussing what you read. These are the active reading skills we're going to be using as we jump into our very first activity. If you have questions about them, please reach out. Otherwise, good luck using these skills.